Okay, so I think we can get started. And so the session is about automated UI testing with Ruby on Rails. It's a pretty common topic and a skill. A lot of people might have already done it, but this is a quick session that we can go through it again. That how Rails handle this, and uh, let me walk you through the dependency file, which is the gem file in Rails. And Rails has included some gems from by default, which we used to add later separately. So Capybara, Selenium WebDriver, and Chrome Driver Helper. So this has made the process a bit easier. And so the gems I have added is Capybara screenshot, and this gem is used to take a screenshot of the web page if there is any failure. And database cleaner is the gem that helps us with cleaning the database after every test spec.
Okay, I have a question here. Why Capybara? Why not any other jam? Or they might be having any competitors related to the same purpose. So why have you chosen Capybara for it?
Uh, that's the most used, widely adopted thing gem in the community, Rails community. So there might be other options, but to be fair, I'm not really aware with them.
Okay.
So we are using Capybara,
Okay.
and because we are using Capybara, we are using Capybara screenshot. Okay, we have another gem, which is Factory Girls Rails, and this is used to create data for test specs, and then our spec is a testing framework for Ruby on Rails. So I've set up some really quick examples for you guys. This is how we configure database cleaner and their strategies with respect to the JS, the test that require JavaScript, and those that don't require it. And this is the configuration of the Capybara screenshot gem. It checks the examples. If there is any example, if there's there any exception in the examples, it takes a screenshot, which we'll see how we can take a look at that screenshot. So I have some views in the application. We are using a car from. Let's see how it works. First of all, so this is a simple form and listing application. You create cars and they get listed here. For this purpose, for this, I have a RSpec test, uh, which says that uh, it works fine. You should have a more descriptive description here. uh,
So it works fine as a validation message or success message to the
it's
user.
nothing. We are going to use something different.
Okay.
So the cars feature is our root path. We are instructing the RSpec to visit the root path and expect page to have some content which is not, which doesn't exist yet. So it should throw us an error and a failure. So this is the command that I'm using. This is set up for Chrome headless by default, and I'm providing it that it should run on the Chrome that so that you can all see what's going on. And along with that, RSpec command with the path of the file. So let's run and see what happens. So the test has failed expectedly. It went to the page and it did not find the content that we expected. So it has taken a screenshot, some HTML file, Actually, let me take a look at the config. Okay, so here I have stated that it should only do so if it's headless Chrome. So let's run the same spec in headless Chrome without taking a peek at what's going on. Okay, so it has opened a screenshot that shows the exact point where the test failed. Now let's try to make some changes in the spec and see if it passes. So now I expect the page to have this content, which is cars. And run the test again. And it passes as we expected. So do we have any questions as of now?
Yes, I have a question here. So basically, we are gathering information for the pictures that the test has been failed. How about if we want to configure that the following test has been passed and we want to take a snapshot for it? Can we do it?
We can.
Okay.
I showed you the config, and this is only doing the screenshot thing when an example has an exception.
Okay.
So we can do that in the success case as well, but I'm yet to see a real life example of that.
Okay. So basically, just to have a case here where we want to capture the success payment screen on the ATMs. So usually bank does it with their softwares. So that was the thing just made me curious to ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, or we can move forward?
Yes, we can.
So we have given it a more appropriate name to the test case, and let's create another test case. So we have added another context. It helps us group the test cases. Uh, okay, the first step should be that visit the user should visit the root path, click link. We need to provide the name of the link, which is new car. So Capybara will automatically click the link. After clicking the link, there is a form, and we need to fill these fields and then click the create car button. this submit button isn't actually a link or a button, so that's why we may need to do it differently. But let's just try with the submit button. And let's see if it creates a car record for us. So in addition to the path that we have given, I'd also provide a line number so that the specific test case is run and not the other ones. So this case number is written on line number 14. So let's see if it gives us any error. Sorry. Let's try again. Okay. So it creates the car as we just saw. Now we need to make some more assertions to ensure that whole process is working fine. So what we can do is we can first of all ensure that the car was created actually created in the database. So what I'll do is expect and query the car count, which we do in Rails like this, not to be 0. So I want the car count not to be 0 to ensure that a car was actually created. And another assertion or expectation that we can make is to query the first car that's present in the database and its model to be what we provided above, which is A3. So let's see that if this test case still passes, and let's actually run it in headless Chrome this time. Okay, so it does passes. It does pass. What more we can test? Any suggestions from you guys? Do you want to test which page it lands on after creating a car, and what message is shown on that page, on the subsequent page?
Basically, right now you are just passing the car information on it. I just want to use the radio buttons to select the car color or some other specs.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be nice if you show us a demo for it.
Okay, so that will require a bit of work on the front end as well, and would require us to add some fields in the database. But let's first of all, I want to show you that how we can ensure that what content should be if the right content is shown after a flow has been run. So so do you have a question? Any numbering integer field? Okay, we'll add that. So first of all, I want to see that what content is shown if the car is created successfully. So we see this message in green, car was successfully created. So we want to ensure that this message is there, which is pretty easy. Okay, let's do what Haris and Arsalan has asked us to do. I will add some columns first of all. Rails generate migration. And the column names are color and price, which is a float column. Let me show you. So this is how we generate columns in Rails through generators. This is gonna create a migration file. This is the migration file, and it tells that we are adding columns to cars table, and the column name is color, and its type is a string. Okay. Second column is price, and its type is float. So let's run the migration to make the database changes in this mentioned in this file. Okay, so that's done. We need to make some changes in the controller as well. Here is a whitelist of the parameters that we allow from the front end for security purposes, that we want the users to provide parameters that are not to be provided from the front end, and that they should be assigned from the back end. So we're going to need to add the newly added attributes here, which is price and color. So this is the HTML of the form. We'll need to add the newly added fields. First of all, let's verify if it works. And it does. So let's create a car. Let's actually make some changes on the show page as well, because we would want to see the data that's being reflected correctly.
Yeah. Plus, we need to add the labels for the colors, and we need to create the columns in the database as well. Or we are just taking it as
no, we have just created the data columns in the migration step that I showed you.
Okay.
It's already done.
Okay.
So, okay, the labels weren't properly created. Okay, so this is the data. And now let's do the same in our spec tests. So is there any specific expectation that you guys would want me to check?
I only want to confirm that what's the difference between Rails migrate, operate, migrate,
yeah, okay. No, it's we used to do Rails rake migrate, rake in the earlier versions of Rails. Now from, I think from Rails 5, they had made such an arrangement that you can also use Rails interchangeably wherever you used to use rake. So any other thing, any other expectation? Okay, so let's fill in the car price field with a random number, and let's try the random number. Okay, so this piece of code gives us a random number within a range. And we need to save this so that we can ensure that the same price is saved in the database. I don't remember the syntax of selecting radio button, but let's just try with this one. And if it doesn't work, then we can check that. So there are two ways that you can check directly in the database that what data is actually created, like we did with the model. Now we can do the same with price. And we can also test or expect something on the page to appear, like we set the price and that should appear on the show page as well. So let's run this example. And actually run it in with visible Chrome driver. Okay, so as I suspected, the select radio button method doesn't work. So let's see what actually we can use in place of this. It's pretty simple, simpler than I thought.
Yes.
I've used it, but I don't remember it. Let's see. It doesn't. It looks like it doesn't. Unable to find radio button. That is not disabled. Okay. So did I provide? I don't. I think I misspelled green. It's case sensitive. So let's give it another try. Still not works.
I think you have to check any one of three. So that will by default.
What this is this.
Okay. So the green is the value of the check of the radio button that we are trying to select, but it expects the name of the radio button in the first field, and the second and the option to be provided in the option keyword. So let's try car color. So car color is the name of the field,
Okay.
Name of the radio button, and option is the option that we want to select. No success. Let's try something else. Car underscore color is the ID of the field, and car square brackets color is the name of the field. So let's try with the name.
No. Basically, it's unable to select the color option.
We need to.
I guess we need to
Actually, let's try this. Do you have any suggestion, Aslan?
Would you like to add something, Aslam? Because we haven't tested with the checkbox as well.
Okay. So let's try with this, and then we can try with the later find option.
Okay.
But you get the idea how you can
Yeah.
test the expectations that are present on, and you can test the CSS as well. Okay, so that part was successful, but the failure was on another part. And okay, so the thing is that the random number that we generated was an integer, and the database column of price is float. That's why it's pending the 0.0. So very simple solution to the problems that we can convert the random number to a float. So that should pass. It's okay. Most of the good part is already done. Okay, so the test passes, and we are visiting the root path and clicking the new card button, going on the new card form, filling some fields, creating a random price, filling the random price, and then ensuring that the card record was actually created and the attributes were populated as per the form, and the success message was shown, and the some element, some HTML was there to ensure that the flow was successful. Let's just add something real quick. I'd like to add some validations. Make model presence true. Okay, so that's how you validate. You put validations in Rails. We have a car model, and we want to ensure that make and model should be mandatory, and the user shouldn't be able to create a car record without providing make or model. Okay, so we will write another test for this purpose. So let's fold this context for now and create another context. So the first step is to visit the root path and click the form button so that the user is redirected to the form. So I'm not filling anything. I'm just gonna click on the create button. So let's see what errors are shown first. Then we can transform them into the expectations. And I'd put a sleeve so that we can see what's on the screen. Okay, sorry, I ran the wrong spec. I didn't provide the new specs line number. It's 36. So we can see these errors. 2 errors prohibited this car from being saved. So let's put these into expectations. So I think it's pretty clear what we're trying to achieve here. Without filling any field, the user should not be able to create a card. And we are visiting the root path, going to the form. Without filling any fields, we are clicking the create card button, and the card count in the database should be 0. And these 3 errors should be shown on the page, subsequent page, so to ensure that our validation is working as expected. Okay, so there was an error, and I think the message was somehow different. Can someone spot the difference? Okay, there wasn't a full stop, I guess. Let's try again. Test passes as expected. So that's how we can test different scenarios and examples, flows. It depends if you want to test a single interaction, a single page, or a flow consisting on multiple pages and multiple forms. So that's it, I guess, from my side. And if you guys have any questions or would like to know more about any of the things that were shown, so let me know, or we can wrap this up.
I have, this is unit testing, right?
Yes.
Integration testing के लिए आपने I think इसमें poltergeist और वो use किया होगा.
Poltergeist नहीं किया. We have used Chrome driver headless, and I think Poltergeist isn't used anymore because it had some issues with it, and Chrome came up with the headless Chrome, and I think it is the de facto standard in the market right now. And you can also do this with so headless Chrome. We saw by running a test on headless Chrome before you came here, and this test was running on the proper Chrome. You could also configure it for the Mozilla Firefox and the Internet Explorer as well. I have tried Mozilla, but not the Internet Explorer. So by default, our test runs in the headless Chrome, and if there's any error, a screenshot is captured and shown on the screen. But we are providing this Chrome option, which opens the Chrome browser. So let's just take a quick look and this test. It's the same test in headless Chrome. So it passes without the window popping up.
Does it save a screenshot in the end? Generally होता है कि अगर आप सही में verify कर रहे होगे तो instead of running the entire UX flow, वो करता है कि पूरा flow चलाता है और फिर it renders an image. उस image में you can see the screenshot के ये error है.
Yes, we saw an example. If you want, I can run that example again. It creates an image and an HTML page as well. It saves the whole HTML of that page for you in the temp directory, so that you can inspect and inquire what went wrong.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So I'm gonna add an expectation that will fail, and then you'll see the screenshot.
Sarmad, I can't see your screen. I guess that screen share is off or something.
So this is a screenshot where the expectation failed, and it's basically showing you that this was the state of the page where the expectation failed. So you can spot the difference. Okay, any other questions? So guys, I didn't have much time to prepare for this lunch and learn, so I didn't prepare for it. And this is just, a demonstration in front of you guys. I hope it helps in some way. And you guys might be doing this differently in your own frameworks and technologies that you guys are using, but this is how it's done in Rails.
टेस्ट कवरेज में तो जनरली हम लोग यूनिट टेस्ट केसेस पे ही इसके काम खत्म कर देते हैं बट इंटीग्रेशन में देन यू हैव टू राइट कंट्रोलर लेवल के टेस्ट केसेस
Yes.
तो उसकी क्या अप्रोच
Okay, first of all, test coverage, with the word you use, test coverage is used for another thing, is that how much of the code is covered with the tests. Like if 100% of the code is being tested by the tests or not. There may be an area where test coverage is low. For example, a payment processor part where you don't have enough specs or any specs at all. So there's a test coverage tool, SimpleCof in Rails. Have you used it? So it tells you the test case, the test suite that you just ran. What was the test coverage of this? Like it will show you that 86% or 75% of your code was tested in this test run. So it's a good tool. And the question that you asked is, you can see that there are many directories, controllers, factories, features, helpers, models, requests, routing. So there are a lot of types of test cases. But if you ask my personal experience, it gets really hectic if you try to write all the test types, and things are subject to change. They change, and then your whole test writing effort is usually wasted, and you have to make adjustment to all those different tests and files. So what I do in my pet project is I have abandoned writing unit tests or service tests where the service or the model aren't too critical. So what I do is I rely on feature tests. There's acceptance testing, full UI testing. It tests everything from the model layer, service layer, and to everything from there. But the only downside to that is that it requires JavaScript and it's time taking. So if you have a test suite of a small application, it can easily take 10 to 15 minutes to run the whole flow, whole test suite. And if you go to any CI/CD services like Circle CI, Travis, or Semaphore, or Jenkins, you will require a lot of resources to run the whole test suite. So that's the only downside that, which is to acceptance and feature testing. But and with critical services or models, you can test them in isolation to ensure granular details that you can't do in the UI testing. It depends on the company, on the project owner, that whether he or she can afford to have this amount of detail in the testing, and they will actually need to commit and dedicate some developers for that effort. So that's my experience.
Also, it depends on the nature of the application. आपने divide करेंगे और आपकी application से data oriented है तो फिर yes, unit testing का makes sense. But अगर आपकी application hybrid है तो then integration test.
Like I said, it depends on the criticality of the feature as well. So if I have a payment service, I would want to unit test it in isolation. But if I have a user model and registration flow, so maybe I could drop the unit test of the user model and go with the integration test.
टेस्ट हम डिफाइन कर रहे हैं तो एक फीचर हमारा एक्सटर्नल आईडेंटिटी पे डिपेंड करता है और इसकी जो डेटा फिल जो हो रहा है वो क्लब सर्विस हो रहा है, यहाँ पे हम ये कैसे चेक करेंगे जो सिलेक्टेड डेटा है वो सर्विस में एग्जिस्ट करता है?
मतलब वो एक एक्सटर्नल सर्विस है जिससे हम डेटा फिल कर रहे हैं और हमें इंश्योर करना है कि वो सर्विस एट एनी गिवन टाइम वो डेटा हमें सही प्रोवाइड करती है ये. Okay, so we usually what we do is have a separate test suite for those scenarios where we are testing external services because consider this scenario. So you want to want your test to be run every time you make any changes in your code. Okay, so that could be a lot. You have a developers team and they are making a lot of changes, and every time any change is made and committed, your test suite is running to ensure that nothing is broken. But you wouldn't want to test the external services part on every change that you make, because that there can't be any outages there because of your change. There may be any failure on their side, but it will be because of their mistakes or any other problem. So we separate those external services from the test suite of our internal application. But if you want to test that in your internal application, what you can do is what we do is we make API calls to external services and we get some data in return. So and that those HTTP interactions are costly. They take time, and if you are on a plan like you have 10,000 or 50,000 free requests, or your plan supports that, so you'll deplete your number of requests because the test suite is going to run again and again. So what you can do is you use a HTTP interaction recording tool like VCR. Have you used it? So VCR, what it does is any HTTP request that goes out of your system, it records them in the YAML file. Let me actually show you.
What does VCR stand for?
I don't know. It's just the VCR that was there.
So it's virtual calling request. Basically, it's virtual calling request. इसमें ये data models बना लेंगे, अपने पास रख लेंगे. ठीक है, मॉक करके जो रिस्पॉन्स आएगा उसको सेव कर लेंगे. नेक्स्ट टाइम आपकी रिक्वेस्ट की जाएगी तो वहां से YAML फाइल को उठा के देते हैं.
So I wanted to show you the actual VCR cassette that I have in my code, but it may be not best, not appropriate to expose that information as it's being recorded. So VCR.
और मेरा मतलब एक सवाल है कि हम जो डेटा वहां से आ रहा है हम उसको वैलिडेट क्यों करना चाहिए?
Should I? Because I think the video is going to be uploaded on YouTube.
Yeah.
And shared on the CreativeChaos channel. Yes.
It's already on the pipeline.
No, wait.
As planned.
Requested this today.
Okay.
Even this bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a very short example of an VCR cassette. I have that in code, but I can show you because this is we are recording this session. So it records everything, the client that was used to make the request, the headers, everything, very minor details. So what it does is that it makes the API call once and then records it, and whenever you runs that code again, it replays that VCR cassette. So you can use external services with this tool, reducing the overhead by by a lot. Makes sense. The response remains the same, and whenever you think that the response structure has been changed from their side, you can re-record the cassettes and go about the usual business.
We are using this service to get the data
Yes.
from the third-party service.
Kind of mocking, but technically it's more recording.
Also, what we can do is we can mock the external service data into our own application via Active.
Yes, but the problem with mocking is that the effort is increased. You have to do a bit more effort if the data is huge, and whenever there's a change in the external API, you'll have to incorporate the change yourself. But with VCR, you just re-record the cassette, and VCR will take care of the changes. It's easy. Yeah. Any more questions? Wrap this up. Have lunch. Okay. Arslan is busy with his phone. Okay, guys. Thank you so much.